This episode of the Deep Thinkers podcast is brought to you by Maracaba Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Andre Maracaba has been doing Jiu-Jitsu for nearly 25 years. He's been in Arizona for over 7 years. In 2017, both his adult competition team and his children's competition team took first place in the state of Arizona. You can find them online at maracababjj.com. That's maracababjj.com. Or you can call the gym at 480-830-6051. Maracaba Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a great atmosphere. It's a great place to train. I train there. A lot of good things going on with the kids program there. A lot of good things going on with the adult program. It's just a real good community. Andre is a tough coach. You'll definitely learn a lot from him. If you're considering getting into jiu-jitsu, definitely come in and check it out. If you're looking for a new gym, if you've already done jiu-jitsu in the past, maybe you want to get back into it, that's great too. Come check it out, maracababjj.com. This episode of the Deep Thinkers podcast is brought to you by Element Stoneworks. Element Stoneworks is a marble and granite countertop company. So if you have some surfaces in your home, whether it's counters in your kitchen or in your bathroom, or if you have a little desk nook that you want some granite on, you want to make it look nice and sleek, nice and posh, this is the company for you. They're on Facebook as well as Instagram. You can reach them at 602-930-8740 or at 480-290-1879. Now, Element Stoneworks does all their own installs and all their own fabricating. So sometimes it's better just to send a text message to these guys, but feel free to try to give them a call anyway. Reach out to both of them. They are insured, and you can find them on Facebook as well as Instagram. Mention the Deep Thinkers podcast, and you will get $50 off your install. This episode of the Deep Thinkers podcast is brought to you by Bright Island Outreach. Bright Island Outreach is a group of dental professionals that goes down to the Dominican Republic multiple times a year. They take young students, dental students from the United States, as well as dental students from the Dominican, and they all go down and they teach people how to take care of their teeth. People who can't afford to do it, people who can't afford to actually go to dentists, they go into some of the more impoverished areas, and they teach people how to take care of their teeth, and they do teeth extractions, and they do root canals and fillings and cosmetics. There's a lot of different ways you can help out. You can go online at brightislandoutreach.org, and you can buy a t-shirt. I wear mine all the time. They've got really cool prints, really soft cotton. They feel great. I always get compliments on it. People ask me what it's all about, and I tell them. You can donate, or if you feel like you really want to get involved, you can actually go with them and check it out and help them out. They're always looking for volunteers. So, but whatever you do, go online to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and check them out there, give them a follow, and help them out with that online presence. Thank you very much. This episode of the Deep Thinkers podcast is brought to you by Don't Play Victim. Don't Play Victim is a limited edition clothing line that features all original designs and prints. Check out their goods at don'tplayvictim.com. Also, follow them on Instagram. That's Don't Play Victim. Hello, Planet Earth. I am here today with not only one of my jiu-jitsu brothers on the mats, but a scientist and nutritionist, Urban Keirnan. How are you doing today, buddy?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, man. I'm very interested in what we have to talk about today.
As you know, I am a bit of a science nerd, although my knowledge is very, very limited and very, very novice. But I make up for it with common sense, I think. Um, but not only am I interested in the science behind what you're talking about, but also, as we've been talking about earlier, I've been cutting weight like a mad. I'm not cutting weight, but just dropping weight like a madman. I sit since I started jiu-jitsu in February of 2017, and I weighed 250 pounds. So right now it's what, February 14th? Yeah, February 14th today. Saturday the 14th.
No, it's April.
April 14th, February. That's the day before Valentine's Day, buddy. Oh, wow. Yeah, so today it is April 14th, and I'm 203 pounds, mostly because of jiu-jitsu.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you, sir. 20 pounds of that has been in the last month because I have started lifting weights 5 days a week, doing jiu-jitsu 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest part of that is I cut my calorie intake down to 1,900 calories.
Okay.
So not bad. I was a little hungry at first, but in working my abs every day,
Sure.
I felt like my stomach was going to kill me. Like
Mm-hmm.
hungry on the inside, abs hurting on the outside. Like life was tough for the first couple weeks, but that's where I'm at. So you came prepared, and we're going to talk about obesity, and let's dive into it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to clarify right off the bat that I am not a nutritionist. I've just learned a lot
About nutrition.
about the aspects of nutrition that I am personally interested in.
Okay.
Like you as a brother in jits, I have specific goals. I started jiu-jitsu April 2016. So I've just passed
Nice.
the 2-year mark. When I started, I weighed 198 pounds.
Wow.
And I weigh like buck naked 156 now.
Wow. Okay.
But that's actually by design. I was 42 years old starting jiu-jitsu. I'm 44 years old now. I am not 25, nor can I even just try to. Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
I cannot bullshit myself.
Yeah.
That I'm still 25. And
Right.
so you have to just change everything. And for the longest period of my life, I was a firm believer, just as long as you worked out, maintained enough muscle mass, you could eat whatever you want. And when you're younger, to be honest with you, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Now that I'm in my mid-40s, it's absolutely not true. And
I'm experiencing that as well.
And diet becomes such an integral part of maintaining health. And when I say health, it's just not like the physical aspect, it's the mental, which leads into spiritual, and just being a complete human being.
Right.
It's so important. So hats off to you. I applaud you for making these changes. My only personal suggestion would be as you move forward with this, do expect that plateau to take place.
I just hit it right now.
Yeah.
I've been losing the last 20 pounds came off in a month.
Gotcha.
And the last 3 days I've weighed in at 203.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, I'm just trusting the process.
Right.
I'm eating right. I'm eating healthy calories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working out. I'm just going to trust the process and know that it's probably going to go down to 2 or 3 pounds a week at this point.
Gotcha. And just for your mental sanity, don't get caught up in what is the scale telling me. Just
Right.
the simple fact, just the density difference between adipose tissue, your fat, and muscle tissue is so drastically different.
Yeah.
You're actually on the right path, but the scale seems like it's lying to you.
Right.
And you just need to be aware of that as you refine Jesse's program, because that's what you have to do. You figure out which exercises work best for you to meet your goals. Again, I'm not sure, like from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, are you trying to get more competitive in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
So doing more like functional body movements versus like some sort of Phil Heath bodybuilder type, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
got
start,
you. Yeah.
start taking steroids next month, you know, nothing like that. But
Right.
you know, just learning what works for you, and then working out that diet. I'm a firm believer in understanding what your macros are.
Right.
You know, macronutrients, and you say that to most people, and they're like, "Oh, what's a macro?" And it's like, okay, it's just the basic group that the food fits into, either protein, carbohydrate,
Or
or
fat.
fat.
And I just figured I started hearing the term macro
Yeah.
like a year ago
Yeah.
on like social media, and I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is a macro, man?
Yeah.
Like, and then Nathan Hyland got me onto MyFitnessPal,
Good. Okay.
and that has made all the difference. You know, it's just MyFitnessPal
Yeah.
and discipline at this point
Amen.
for me.
Absolutely. Those are the two things. It's too easy if I keep track in my mind.
No.
Of what
There's
are
too much.
bullshitting
There's
yourself.
too much.
You track everything, and when I switched onto MyFitnessPal,
Yeah.
I was totally blown away as to how off in reality I was from my mindset.
I just didn't even realize how much I was eating throughout the day. I was like, whoa, man. Like I ate like 5 servings of this 1 serving suggestion every time I
Right.
sit down, you know,
Right.
like, wow,
Yeah.
you know, like that was what was crazy to me, was just, and the thing is like getting my head around it. Like, okay, so if my servings are supposed to be this, that should be able to sustain, this amount of food should be able to sustain me for a couple hours to where I can have a snack or I can eat again, and it should be this amount of calories then too, and that's how I can spread these calories out through the day. But man, I would have 600-700 calories per meal, and then snack in between, and what am I doing wrong? Everything I ate today was healthy. And I was like, yeah, but I ate a fuckload of it, you know. I mean, just wow, you know.
You have to have an understanding of that calories in, calories out, or go. You work out. Thank goodness you didn't get caught up in that mindset of, I just got to do purely cardio. Yeah, you need to build that muscle mass.
Because that burns fat quicker than cardio, right? Am I wrong on that, or?
It increases your base metabolic rate.
Right.
And so even when you're sleeping,
yeah,
you're requiring more calories.
Right.
But
okay.
yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there. Like from a biohacking perspective, I encourage everybody to learn up about this, and don't sit there and figure out what it is that you want to do. But don't go by these general nutritional guidelines, because depending upon what you want to do, it might be actually counterproductive as to what you're trying to achieve with your goals. You look at me, I'm
man, you're lean.
You wouldn't believe how much bacon I eat in a week.
Well, you're keto diet, right?
Yeah, I'm a high protein keto diet.
Okay.
And so, to your point regarding discipline, this is one of those diets where
you have to have. I've tried keto before I started Jiu-Jitsu, and didn't last a week because I didn't have the discipline. Jiu-Jitsu provided me the discipline that's been able to allow me to refine my diet.
Sure. And then keep doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Keep doing something.
Yeah.
It's just so many people just get caught up in that. And that will lead into the problem that we're facing here regarding obesity.
Right.
Just everybody has this mindset that they have tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then before you realize it, a year's gone by, 2 years gone by, and anybody who's getting older out there listening to this.
Listen up, you people that fall into that category.
The secret that I have to give to everybody regarding health as you get older is don't fall off the horse to begin with. As you get older, the farther from the path you are. You might think, when I was younger, give me 6 months, I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
No. Again, you're fooling yourself. It's challenging, it's hard, especially when you're working, and we as Americans, we like to work 90 hours a week, and that's absolutely crazy. But find that balance. Find what's right for you, and just don't stray too far from that path. So.
No, and I would totally champion that. My background with sports was always in weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting. I started when I was in ninth grade, and went all the way through my senior year. I would lift at a private gym after high school, Sports Technique. My coach was Joe Jolly. Rest in peace, brother. Love you. His brother provided a lot of the funds for us to lift. Joe charged us $70 a month for what people charge 150 for.
Sure.
Todd Shell was his brother. Todd Shell's his brother who played for the 49ers and owns a lot of the citrus, around there in Mesa. So he had some extra money that he would kind of give Joe, as Joe hit him up constantly for money to take us to tournaments and just different things. So I took third in the state of
awesome.
Arizona by my last time. My best clean and jerk total was 250. My best snatch was 200.
Nice.
So I was pretty strong. My best deep squat 455. So I was just a tank, and just always had the mentality of, but we never gave any thought to diet. It was always just work. We squatted every day. When we did 2-a-days, we do front squats in the morning and back squats at night. And we're talking like plates.
Yeah.
I was, we're repping out 185. 5 to 7 times. You put more on 5 to 7 times.
Yeah.
It was a hard regimen, and we're doing overhead squats. We're doing snatch balances where you're standing up there. Basically what you do is you're standing with the bar. You have the snatch grip. You're standing with the bar on your shoulders, and you just drop into an overhead squat. The bar doesn't move. Your body just moves underneath it. You do a quick heave and boom. And so we would do, just quick movements like that. But the mentality was always, you can outwork a bad diet, really, if you try hard enough.
Sure.
It was the 90s, and the internet wasn't available yet, and nobody in our group of people actually gave a whole lot of thought or merit to nutrition on a broad scale. Otherwise, it would, even if one person had come in and just been like, no, this is the way you're supposed to eat, this is the way you do it, it would have been different, but just no one was there.
Right.
So, I got into martial arts in high school, United Fighting Arts Federation, the Chuck Norris system.
Okay.
Love it. The most mixed thing I could find at that time. And one of the things that they taught were Jiu-Jitsu, like maybe 20% of the overall system. So it's how to pull guard, how to do some basic arm bars from the guard,
Sure.
Mount, a couple sweeps, and that was it. But that was my introduction. That was my background in sports back then. No matter what, I don't care how dialed in your metabolism is, how fast, how much of a fuel burning machine you are. Motherfucker time gets everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time you hit your late 30s and 40s, you're going to have to dial in your diet, whether you go ketogenic or whether you just pull back the calorie count. Find what works. But you brought some stats here. Let's take a look at these real quick.
Sure, absolutely.
A little bit of a hard shift into this obesity epidemic that the United States is facing.
Well, it's not just the United States. It's Western society as a whole. And
real quick, before we dive into this, tomorrow Kevin Folta is going to come on again, and he's a GMO guy trying to engineer food for the other end of the problem, for people who aren't getting enough calories in third world countries, or at least the people in his field are, not him specifically. But today we're talking about this end, and then tomorrow we'll talk about the other end.
And that's actually funny you mentioned that, because the way it stands right now in 2018, I'm going to use some very politically correct terms. The number of overnutritioned individuals.
I love that term, overnutritioned.
That blows my mind. Overnutritioned individuals actually outnumbers on the planet the number of people who are starving. There's about 800 million people on the planet who are at famine levels of living, where there's 1.2 billion overweight and obese people on the planet, and
Wow.
that's just boggling, because you don't hear as much about the magnitude of the problem. Everybody's aware of it. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. People sit there and they're like, yeah, I got to lose a few pounds. And it's just like, I'm sorry.
You got to lose more than a few.
We have to be real regarding
Yeah.
all of this. And so I wish the viewers at home would be able to see this, but all of this data is available on the CDC website.
Okay.
So these aren't my numbers. This is what the U.S. government has accumulated over the last 20 some odd years. So this is a map of the United States in 1994, and I've got the rate of obesity and the rate of type 2 diabetes on two separate maps. And so here you have, back in 1994, a couple of states reporting data. Most of them, a lot of states aren't reporting any data. But here in the U.S., it was about 14 to 17% obesity rate in most states. Type 2 diabetes, the high end is around 5% in any state. And so as we start moving forward through time, data gets collected.
Wow.
The numbers change. 1997, actually
Wow.
1998, you start seeing states in which the obesity rate is between 22 and 26%. Type 2 diabetes is up to almost 9% in some states. And it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. We're into the aughts now. And we see this huge skyrocket. We're now greater than 26% in some states in terms of obesity. And time goes on. 2005, the entire southeast of the United States has greater than a 26% obesity rate. And you can kind of see the parallels between obesity and
diabetes. Yeah.
It just the maps are uncanny. If you had cardiovascular disease, it would overlay with these as well. And so,
Wow. So Colorado is the leanest state in the West as far as the obesity numbers go.
Yeah, so I've got a map here through 2010. I think the updated numbers that you can get off of the CDC are up through 2013. But here in the map in 2010, half of the United States is greater than 26% obesity rate, and about 1/3 is actually greater than 9% type 2 diabetic. And so ladies and gentlemen, this is a problem. When you go and here's the 2010 cardiovascular disease rate, well, guess what? This is exactly the same as what we just saw.
Like this, I have to get a hold of these images, and when I edit this, put it on there. But like, I'm telling you, planet Earth, the South, it's not looking good for you guys on this map.
No,
like all that good soul food, it takes its toll.
Absolutely. And so there's so many different factors, like socioeconomic, that you have to include as a part of all of this stuff. But there's a disease. I guarantee you've never even probably heard of it before. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. 20 years ago, it wasn't even considered a disease. This demographic that we're talking about right here in the Southeast, 40% of the population have it. 40%.
Sheesh.
So this is something that, I'm getting a little bit heavier. Yeah, big deal. So what? Current statistics today in the United States, 1 in 3 Americans is obese, clinically obese.
No, I've been there, man.
67% of Americans are either overweight or obese.
Yeah, in 1999, I was 275 pounds. That was when I was on my mission in England, on my Mormon mission in England.
Okay.
And I got down to about 240 by the time I got home. And then when I was home, I since my mission, I fluctuated between 250 and probably 220.
Right.
In 2012, I was 205, and I started dating a girl that was going to school to be a pastry chef at Lake Cordon Bleu.
Okay.
We broke up at 245, and then the emotional eating started. And by 300 pounds, by about 300 pounds, I moved up to Utah, and in about 6 months, I dropped back down to about 230.
Okay.
And I've been between 220 and 240 ever since.
Okay.
So, for me to be 203 right now is a big deal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I got my family health history. I'm adopted.
Okay.
And I got my family health history in the last couple years. And yeah, history of diabetes, history of heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on both sides.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's really time to lock it up for me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm looking at 190 where I'm at. I'm looking at 203 where I want to be, where I'm at.
Right.
And 190 where I want to be. And I'm looking at the size of my gut.
Okay.
And I'm just being honest with myself. There's a lot more room to drop in there.
Again, don't focus on the poundage.
Yeah.
Get a caliper set. They're cheap. Actually, if you get a large enough order from like bodybuilding.com,
Yeah.
you can get a free gift, and one of them is actually a caliper set.
Uh-huh.
And just go do your measurements.
All right.
Yeah, and calculate your body fat.
Yeah.
And kind of work off of that.
Yeah.
Because that's what, to me, it sounds like you're interested in gut. And to be honest with you, as you get older, as a male, that is the hardest part. Like, your love handles will go away, but it's that little pooch, like right behind the navel.
Yeah.
That is just, it's killing me. And part of it.
But you don't even have any type of gut, man. Like.
Oh, I do if I take my shirt off and I slouch back.
Yeah, but I see you in a rash guard. You know what I mean? The rash guard shows all. You know, like.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate that, but no, it's. I was never as extreme as you. My worst was 215.
Okay.
And actually, if you go and you look on Facebook, looking at my pictures, I actually grew a beard because I was so unhappy with the way my face.
Yeah, it's the law of distraction.
Yeah.
When you have this, you don't see this.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's just but my face was so puffier, and
Yeah.
now that I've lost all this weight, and you can really see it on my face, it's just I'm just so much happier.
Oh, for sure.
You know? For
sure, man. When I was 300 pounds, I was working in a scrapyard, and so I was moving around a lot.
Right.
And I was wearing Doc Marten work boots, and it was a process to take those off and put them on. You know, I would take a deep breath and I would pull one on, and then sit back and recover from it for a second. Take a deep breath, pull the other one on, and sit back and recover from it. Take a deep breath and lace that one up. Sit back, recover. Take a deep breath, lace that one up, sit back, recover. Take a deep breath, tie that one, and then do the same with the other one. And that was how I took them off and on every morning.
Wow.
And that was what really was like, what have I done to myself?
Uh-huh.
You know, like this is taking my fucking shoes off and on.
Right.
Like, this is elementary level. Like,
mm-hmm.
And I can't do it. Like, it's taken me 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to do this. Like,
right.
Like that was really when I was just like, all right, man, I've got to do something. I've got to pull myself out of this.
But and was that the bottom for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I've never been over 240 since then. Well, 250.
Okay.
When I started, 245, 250 when I started jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha.
You know, depending on what scale I was on, really.
Sure.
But yeah, since then it's been a constant slow journey of losing weight and being more healthier. But jitsu has certainly accelerated that.
Oh, sure.
And made it a priority.
Good.
You know.
Yeah. And I'm as painful as those epiphanies are. I'm glad you had it at such a young age, because if you were having that epiphany when you were 50,
oh my gosh, it'd be too late, man.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's where we're at here in America, coming up on 2020 right now, and you know the predictions are out there. 1 in 3 kids now is obese, comorbidities associated with obesity, such as cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, things that you would normally not associate until somebody gets well into their late 30s, 40s, 50s, are afflicting late teens,
Yeah, man.
20s, 30s. It's just they're expecting this next generation of kids because of obesity. And when I say next generation of kids, it's in relation to me being a Generation Xer.
Right.
Aren't going to outlive their parents.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, but think about this from a country standpoint.
Yeah.
What would happen to this country if you had, because everybody complains that baby boomers are getting older and we've got all of these responsibilities that we have to them, geriatric population, very real questions. Okay, eventually, it's sad to say, baby boomers will be gone. Now you've got the Generation Xers. We're holding everything, but then the generation below us starts tapering off.
Yeah.
It's just you wind up with this gap in population.
It's scary, yeah.
So you've got obviously, from the socioeconomic, all of those things you have to deal with, your GDP. It's just like what's going on here.
Right.
From a military standpoint, it's like do you have enough of a population to defend your landmass? Not to say I want to take this conversation down that road, but that's a very real question.
Questions you have to ask yourself when you have giant numbers of your population dying from obesity-related problems.
Right.
But I mean, also you have to look at the type of jobs that people who are getting obesity have. People who are sitting down in desks all day. A lot of in desk jobs you have high end and low end desk jobs. Wide ends of the spectrum. You have the person sitting in the call center all day, but that goes home and with that paycheck is trying to feed 5 kids.
Right.
And you've got the high end CEO or executive that's behind a desk all day or in meetings all day sitting down. So I mean, that's the backbone of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that spectrum includes a lot of people that you need those mass numbers of in order for an actual infrastructure and economy to exist.
Yeah, the way our economy has evolved to today, but it's because we've had this trend away from manufacturing. And again, I don't mean to make this into some sort of social political thing, but purely from obesity standpoint, all of this stuff, all of these conveniences that have developed over the last 30 years, from the invention of the Happy Meal, the drive-through, the cell phone, the personal computer, and in the movement away from labor-based jobs to office-type, sit on my butt for 8 hours.
Well, let's talk about the next one that's going to drop here in the next 5 years, the 3D printer.
Right.
Okay, we're not going to have to do anything. Everything will be 3D printed. In the next 15 to 20 years, 3D printing will be like buying a cell phone. We'll be go down to the block and be like, okay, I just bought this. Here's a coupon I bought online. Print this out for me. Like, okay, come back in 4 hours. And it'll be like a brand new, freshly manufactured, printed 3D printed phone right there for you. And that'll be the future of shopping.
And I don't disagree with that. I don't necessarily think that would exacerbate the problem. I think what exacerbates the problem is when I don't even have to get off my effing couch to be able to go get that.
Right.
It's just I've got this brand new customized cell phone because of this 3D printing, and I don't need to hunt through the couch to find the TV remote control because it's on my cell phone now.
Exactly.
Exactly. If it could just go in and produce popcorn for me right here, then
which we're not that far away from that, where you just have your oven and your microwave controlled by your cell phone.
Yeah.
Your fridge,
a little drone will carry it over for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Drone technology, man. How crazy is that becoming? You know.
The Olympics, what they did for the opening of the Olympics,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that is
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We live in crazy times, man. Because like in the '80s, like I'm 39, you know, so I was a kid all throughout the '80s,
Yeah.
which a lot of it was really cool because that's when computers were coming up. That's when robotics were getting big. That's when sci-fi was really, you know, getting
Sure.
deep. So a lot of that was being from that perspective. Being a kid in the '80s was awesome. Also, being a kid in the '80s was kind of confusing because as far as like music and entertainment goes, everyone was on cocaine, and so you're just like, being a little kid, you're like, what are these? Like you know, you got these guys up there with, you know, these pink hair flowing in the
Yeah.
wind, wearing fishnets and makeup, and you're like, and they're singing these ballads, and you're just like 9.
Yeah.
And you're looking, you know, so, but yeah, I mean, growing up in the '80s, like, that was crazy with robotics, you know, seeing how it's actually becoming real, you know, now
Right.
is nuts, and how fast it's moving.
Right.
You know, like Elon Musk is taking a fastly moving game and changing it. You know, he's actually catching up the infrastructure, it seems like, to what we can, like yeah, we can do this in the lab. Well, if we can do it in the lab, why aren't we doing it outside the lab? It basically seems to be like his mentality. Amazing times we're living in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, and interesting to see where food is going too, because, you know, counting your macros back in the '80s and '90s,
It wasn't even heard of.
like you, well, if it was, like, you had some math to do,
Right.
you know, and like you had some like you couldn't just go to the internet and, like, you know, what's the macros for an egg?
Right.
You know, you had to really look.
Yeah.
Now it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, like I
9 grams of protein. I'll tell you that right off the top of my. I couldn't tell you the fat content. 70 grams, or excuse me, 70 calories.
Yeah.
Per egg.
Yeah, I have it in here in my phone. Like, when Nathan Highland showed me that you could just scan it,
And it's.
I was just like, wow, man, like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
that's a game changer.
Yeah.
And there's only one thing I couldn't scan that I eat, and it's the multi-grain omega bread from Costco.
Okay, just enter it in.
Yeah, just enter it in. It's
Yeah.
fine, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, oh well, occasionally you're gonna have to enter something in, but that's such an amazing resource, you know, for people who just don't even know where to get started.
Correct. But the amount of misinformation. So we've got all of this great stuff going on here, sharing of information, ideas.
But any idiot can put anything out there.
There's just so much crap,
you know,
that's out there,
like,
and that's contributed to the problem,
mm-hmm.
you know, and you know, especially being on a ketogenic diet personally. And again,
right.
I'm not pushing keto on anybody, but it's like, if you were ingrained into like what the traditional nutritionists that are out there saying that this is what you need to eat, like with, you know, your grains and cereals, fruits and vegetables and stuff, they would look at what I eat and they would be like, I would love, your numbers are going to be horrible. I just have my cholesterol checked.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I am totally
yeah.
fine.
Well, the big thing too with what people don't realize with fat is good for you. Fat, like your cells are made of cholesterol. So like,
yep.
for cell, you know, repair to happen, you got to have some cholesterol in there. Fat's fine. What's bad is when you have fat with sugar. That's the
game
death
changer.
cocktail
yep.
right there.
Yeah. And I'm actually, as a part of my study into obesity, and just for full disclosure, I do have a drug company that I'm developing. So,
mm-hmm.
You know, just like from the Elon Musk point of view, he's clearly another innovator, just like Craig Ventnor was with Celgene. Clear innovators in the industrial world tackling an academic problem simply because there's an opportunity to make money. And we'll call it the way it is.
Well, here's the thing though. we live in a capitalist world, and that's the way you get things done, is to play that game. So you can either be punk rock and bitch about it, or you can ride that wave on a surfboard that you know is going to do a lot of people a lot of good.
Right.
And that's what you or Elon or Jeff Bezos are doing. Right. Yeah, anybody that bitches about that and is not getting off their ass doing something their way,
right,
is just all hot air.
Oh no,
so that but people don't realize, like, we live in a capitalist world. A capitalist sees an opportunity, fixes a problem. Who cares if they're making money off it? They're fixing the problem. That's the way shit gets done.
Yeah.
So yeah, like with from that angle, like, that's the way I see it. It's
right.
Like, yeah, they're a capitalist. Who cares? Like, capitalists are greedy. You know what? Socialists are greedy. Communists are greedy.
Yeah.
Like, capitalists at least gets things done, and at least that system works.
Right. And
so,
and the simple fact, in this day and age, we've got a system in which these capitalists can form based off of great ideas and developing a great team. They're able to come up with a great product that they're able to sell to the masses, that consumers want, is an enablement to our society. That company grows, becomes publicly traded, and then you as an individual can invest in that company and reap in the rewards. Like Apple. Boom. Okay, great.
How many millionaires were made, when Apple had its resurgence?
Yeah. How many millionaires were made when FedEx moved big and went public?
Yeah. Exactly. Facebook.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's these things that, are enablers in today's society. It's just, we, from a health perspective, need to, as a part of the masses, need to take more accountability and responsibility for what we're doing, learning about what makes us tick, gaining that information for yourself, and then and implementing it in your life to be able to go out and live a healthy, productive lifestyle. Unfortunately, though, that's only going to go so far in this population, and that's why I'm developing a unique therapeutic to treat the diseases that are associated with this obesity epidemic that we're seeing right now.
Nice.
So I just need to kind of disclose that.
That's fine.
That's all. That's
part of the reason why I had you on here too, is because one, you're doing that. Well, that means you know something about it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't have any problems with that at all, man. Where was I going with this? I totally just hit a pothole.
Yeah, me too.
Cool, man. That's why I edit this stuff.
Yeah. No.
I have buddies that are like, "Why do you edit it? Just release it live." And I'm like, "No, I don't have." Like Joe Rogan's been on TV for 15 years,
right?
And leading discussions, and has been doing stand up for 25, and
right.
Can control a conversation. I'm a novice.
Sure.
So the way he does his show live, like, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
And that it goes as smooth as it does all the time. It just, he's
practice.
Good.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, man. Heart disease rates. Okay, I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah, let's talk about that classic food pyramid that most people are used to.
Okay.
A little bit, and how wrong it is. I mean, aren't grains at the top of that? Like,
They're actually, no, that though. Again, I'm not a nutritionist, and it's been forever and a day since I've looked at a food pyramid. The things that I personally look at as a part of my studies around obesity are, okay, one, what's going to elicit an insulin spike?
mm-hmm.
And from a biochemical perspective, what are the different pathways that insulin interacts with, especially when it comes to the lipid metabolism arena.
Okay.
And then, lipid what's a lipid? A fat. That's the
Right.
chemical name for fat. And as Jesse was saying a little bit earlier in this conversation, fats are absolutely so important in maintaining health. And people think, well, fat, you've got cholesterol, and then you got cholesterol. That's it. And it's just like, no. When you go and you look at the lipid classification, like biochemically, there's 6 different types of fats that are out there. Like the majority of your cell membranes are made up of phospholipids. It's a phospholipid bilayer, but in order for those to maintain fluidity, you have to have cholesterol inserted in there, or else it just loses stability and
Right.
and degrades. Here's the biggest thing is males is cholesterol is the basis of testosterone.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's the building block
The precursor.
for the
Yeah.
hormone that makes you a man.
That's crazy. Okay.
And so here's one of my questions.
Is that why men have more problems with cholesterol than women typically, or is that completely unrelated?
To be honest with you, I can't comment
Okay.
on that. Here's a question for you. We live in a society right now in which every food product you buy has its nutritional information available. You have more reduced fat options
Than ever.
and obesity is growing like crazy. So
Yeah.
now we've kind of talked about, like, the activity standpoint and all of those things. Okay, from a nutritional standpoint, if fat is genuinely the cause of the problem, why are we having this inverse correlation?
Right. Right.
And it's just simply simple answer to that is the amount of sugars that have been to replace the flavor in the fillingness of fat.
Yeah.
They've replaced it with
With sugar.
sugars, high fructose corn
In
syrup.
everything. Everything.
You can't get away with it.
Yeah.
Can't get away from it.
And it's crazy when you think about, like, when you actually learn how high fructose corn syrup is made. It's kind of gross.
Okay.
Like I learned it from that movie, that Matt Damon movie, The Informant. Like, basically they take corn and they put it in a giant vat and they insert bacteria into it,
Mm-hmm.
and the bacteria eats the corn and shits out high fructose corn syrup. I mean, that's simplified, but that's what it is. It's like, oh, okay. Well, when you put it that way, it doesn't taste as good. Like.
But again, from a consumer standpoint, find options that,
Right.
because now you're giving up your convenience.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm sure you've learned in terms of eating clean is you give up that convenience.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the way you do it. Do you use
I-
your Sundays for like a meal prep day?
I do a little bit of meal prep. What I'm doing right now is I'll eat things like RX bar, like it tells you exactly what's in it.
No BS. That's awesome.
Yeah, 3 egg whites, like it's on the front. All that writing is. Hold it up real quick. It's 3 egg whites, 14 peanuts, 2 dates, and no BS.
Gotcha.
That's the ingredients right there. I wish I had the yolks in there for the fat, but it is what it is. So I'll eat stuff like that. I eat a fig bar. I start my breakfast out. A lot of times I'll have like an open-faced PB&J or like some Kodiak cakes that are like protein pancakes. They sell them at Costco. They're delicious.
Right.
So I'll have those or eggs, and then I eat like a lot of fish and stuff at night.
Right.
But yeah, I could basically just because I'm still so new into it, I'm not doing a ton. I'm focusing more on things I can eat that are low cal, but still have like high protein, high fat. So that's kind of what I'm like. A lot of hummus, a lot of protein crackers,
Right.
things like that.
Gotcha.
Avocado mayo. When I have my eggs,
Sure.
I'll like a boiled egg open faced sandwich with avocado mayo on like some good Omega bread. So things like that. So I'm trying to eat. I'm doing about half and half processed health foods.
Right.
Which is it's convenience because I suck at food prep or meal prep.
Yeah.
But also it's just there's so many good options nowadays where it's like, okay, this, like I eat like those vegan cookies that are Lenny and Larry's.
Okay.
You know, and they've got like
It's in the
12 grams of protein. They sell them at the gym.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the white packages.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll eat those. I live off those, man. Fig bars. I know that there's natural sugars and stuff in figs, but I try to eat that stuff like this earlier in the day,
Right.
and then keep it more to proteins and stuff and fats as I go throughout the day. But right now, I know as I hit my plateaus and stuff, I'm gonna need to dial in my diet even further.
Right.
But right now, I'm just getting used to eating healthier foods,
Sure.
and a lot less of them.
Gotcha.
So that's what's working for me right now. I know I'm going to have to drop it down again because I look at my gut right now and I think this is what it looks like at 203. What's it going to look like at 190? Man, I probably got another 20 pounds in there. So I think I'm going to chill for maybe 1 or 2 tournaments at 190 and
Okay.
then kick it in again and drop down to 170 and try to just walk around
Oh,
at
wow.
170.
Okay.
I think that might be the ultimate goal there.
Okay.
Just because, man, like, I just don't think that this gut is going to be, and the belly fat, it's not, I think I look fine. You know, I'll
Right.
take my shirt off when I go swimming. I don't give a care. I used to be really insecure about my body,
Sure.
especially when I was heavier. But I've been so heavy that right now when I take my shirt off, I'm like, yeah, I don't care, man. I think I look fine.
Right.
You know, it's more about the problems that come with belly fat, specifically belly fat and like diabetes, belly fat and heart disease. Something about putting on that weight right there in the front of your belly. I don't know, man. I just heard bad things about it, and my health history scared me into tackling it.
But that's kind of interesting you bring that forward because that's the visual cue of what I see as a scientist as a bigger problem. Everybody talks about the peripheral body fat. Why? Because when you step in front of the mirror naked,
Right.
you see it. You know,
Right.
oh, I got man boobs now. It's okay.
Yeah.
Guess what? You can see it. Well, have you ever thought about what fat is doing on the inside of you?
That's the thing. Yeah.
And that is more dangerous than
the look. I mean, yeah, it looks bad. But I mean, like I said, I've looked so bad before that at 200 pounds, let's take an estimate at what my body fat percentage is at. Let's say I'm around 22 to 25.
okay.
You know, just a rough estimate. You know, might be 20 to 25. Who knows?
Sure.
I think because I've been at 35 or 40, I think right now I look fine. But when I look at that fat, what I see is what you're talking about. Like, what's going on? How is this going to affect me 20, 30 years down the road?
Right.
And so that's what I'm more concerned about now is just the health aspect of it.
Right.
So, yeah, like that's like,
Right.
and maybe, you know, that's thinking like a scientist. That's fine with me. I love science. I love deductive reasoning and logic.
Right.
But for me, that's the big scary thing right there. And honestly, I had a blood clot in 2008.
Oh, wow.
That kind of woke me up.
Those will
Might
kill you.
have had an altercation with a police officer where he put some handcuffs on me. That may have induced the blood clot. I don't know. My memory's a little foggy on this topic.
I don't
Might
know.
have been in jail for 3 days before they took me to the ER, the triage nurse. Yeah, it was a little scary.
Sure.
But Lovenox twice a day, shots in the stomach
Yep.
for 2 months, Coumadin for 2 years. Now I'm on aspirin.
Okay.
I'm lucky that it's not genetic, but it was right here. You know, like that either goes to your heart, your lungs, or your brain.
And you're screwed either way.
And I'm so lucky that I had a friend in medical school. He's my doctor now.
Okay.
But I was like, hey man, like, because they took me to the ER from jail,
Sure.
and they gave me a test and they're like, you're fine. And then I got bailed out, so I was like, all right. And so then I went another 2 months and it was just kind of tight.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to Idaho because I was working for a concert promoter, and we bought a venue up there, and we did the demolition on a bar and turned it into a venue. It's called the Icon. It was a sick venue for the podunk town of Pocatello. But I was working a jackhammer on a bar, and it started to like accelerate.
Right.
And I was like, "Whoa, man, something's not right." I called my buddy, and he was like, "Dude, you need to go to the ER like now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not getting off the phone with you until you're there. Go." And so that's when they're like, "Whoa, yeah, you've got a deep vein thrombosis. Like, this is serious. They should have caught this before. They didn't."
Right.
Whatever. But because it wasn't genetic, they didn't keep me on Coumadin forever. So
Which is good.
So yeah, I'll take it. So
Yeah.
my buddy was like, "Listen, man, when you're 40, you should be taking aspirin anyway. You know, just to give your heart a break."
Mhm.
He's like, "Just start taking aspirin every day as a preventative measure, just in case anything ever pops up again. You'll be on top of it before it ever
Sure.
starts." So I was like, "All right." So that's where I'm at with that. But
As long as
yeah.
your body can tolerate it, there's nothing wrong with taking a baby aspirin.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
80 megs.
Yeah.
Go from there.
That's what he said. He said 80 megs is as much as a big one.
Yeah.
So, or he said it's not. He said with aspirin, it's not really the amount that matters. It's a certain level, and then a trigger. Then something is instigated once you get to the 80 meg.
Yeah.
He's like, that's why they make it 80 meg tablets, is because that's really all you need.
Yep.
For blood thinning.
Yeah, well, you also have to watch out too. Here in in the U.S., we got this dumbass mindset that more is better.
Yeah.
And if you have something that impedes the clotting process,
Yeah.
you need to watch it. Like with some of our studies, that what we have to do, and as a part of our prototype experiments, we actually got informed consent, and we actually used humans in which we wanted to extract a specific enzyme from their blood
Right.
and do a quick study on it. But in order to get at this enzyme, I have to inject you with heparin,
Okay.
which is a blood thinner. And
Okay,
it's
yeah.
like, and so the kind of joking concern was afterwards is, please do not get in a car accident on the way home.
Right.
Because
Don't shave today.
yeah,
You know,
just kind of just chill.
Yeah.
Just don't do anything. Just because if you stop bleeding, your body's gonna have an
Oh.
inability to clot until this clears.
Man, I was working in a bar. I was running the kitchen in a bar where we did all the food prep, and I had to wear a like a medical alert bracelet,
Yeah.
the blood thinners, and every time I would nick myself with a knife, I would have to put a Band-Aid on, and I'd end up bringing gym tape to the kitchen and like cutting up or taping up my hands,
Mm-hmm.
and then putting on a rubber glove, over a nick,
Yeah.
in my knuckle,
Yeah.
like again,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like cutting yourself shaving on a blood thinner
Yeah.
is an ordeal, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you see the guy with like all that napkin stuck to his face, it's like there's
Yeah.
no other way to stop the bleeding on a blood thinner. You got to
Yeah.
do something. It takes forever to clot.
Yep.
Which is the whole point. But that was a scary injury, man, because it was nothing I did that caused it.
Right.
It was just, and it was completely like unseen.
Right.
And I was functioning on it, and that could have at any point been done.
Sure.
Just yeah.
And again, at least you caught it, but just think of how many more chronic events that develop within individuals as a part of the masses versus these very acute traumatic events.
Yeah.
It's like, you're getting fatter, and people recognize this, but they don't do anything about it. They're focusing on the belly fat. Well, that fat is permeating into your liver,
Yeah.
into your kidneys,
It's causing
into your
problems.
pancreas. Yeah, and that permeation of fat and the formation of diacylglycerols in both your muscle and your liver tissue, that's one of the primary drivers behind the development of insulin resistance.
Yeah.
And there's studies out there that have shown that as this it's called ectopic fat develops within these organs, it prevents the formation of Yeah, I'm getting probably a little bit too
No, you're
technical
fine. Yeah, keep
biochemistry
getting
wise
it. Yeah.
of the GLUT4 vesicles, and that that leads to the cell not being able to take glucose in, and so then you wind up with glucose floating around in your bloodstream, and so your poor pancreas starts barfing out more insulin, so you get
Right.
much more dramatic responses in until just to try to get to the same baseline at what it was before. Yeah, your body tries to from at a cellular level try to compensate by making more insulin receptors, and then that starts to backfire, and then it winds up producing less of them, and then the same thing happens to your pancreas. It gets to the point where I can't keep up with this rate, and then it stops producing insulin wholesale, and now you're in a
Yeah.
world of hurt. Now you're into the world of, okay, am I going to keep my vision? Am I going to keep my limbs?
Yeah.
All of those types of things, when it's just like this has just been something that has been happening to you over the last 2 decades, and you've chosen to ignore it. I don't mean to seem like mean or anything like that, but
Hey
it's
man, when I would get big, I'd be sitting in my buddy's house. We'd be sitting in his man cave.
right.
4 or 5 of us just, well, I'll say what it was. We were sitting there smoking weed, and it would get quiet. One would look at me and be like, "Hey, Jess." I'm like, "Yeah, you're getting fat." The other one would be like, "Yeah, Jess, what's your favorite food to eat right now?" Like, "Hey,
Right.
Jess, how much soda do you drink a day?" And all of a
Right.
sudden it would just be like, and they weren't being nice. I mean, it was tough love. They were being jerks, but
Right.
like, I'll tell you what, after a 20-minute grilling like that, I was always locked up for the next month, like
Right.
trying to drop at least some weight.
Sure.
And that's my friend's way of dealing with the issue with me,
Right.
and it got results. I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that with their friends that are overweight, but I mean, if there's someone in your life that's big, and it's because of poor life choices, like,
Right.
how good of a friend are you really if you don't at least approach it maybe from like a mobility standpoint? Like, bro, wouldn't you like to be able to move better? Like, wouldn't you
Right.
like to be able to put your work boots on, like, I don't know, like in a minute and a half,
Right.
Or less than a minute, like, wouldn't you like to be able to go hiking? Wouldn't you like to go hunting again? I mean, just stuff like that. Man, for me, that's what it was people in my life that were like, "Listen, dude, you're too big.
Right.
You need to lock it up," But it's tough, man, because there's a lot of different things that are tied to eating, birthdays, anniversaries. Like, you go out to
yeah.
eat to celebrate, like people come into town, whenever you go on vacation, diet's the first thing to go out the window.
Yeah.
If you're a healthy person, you go on vacation, diet's the thing you cinch up the most. You got that one cheat meal and you're eating beans the rest of the day, essentially.
Right.
Like, I know people that get really strict on their diet when they go out of town because they can't work out.
Right.
But yeah, man, so many things are centered around food, and in America, we have amazing food.
Oh yeah, we do.
We have food from all over the world coming here, and we have ingredients that have been refined. Food that has been refined in through genetic modification, to where it's full of flavor, it's full of color, it's easier to grow, like,
Right.
it's it's heartier, it lasts longer. So I mean, we have amazing food.
Right.
And any store you go to has an amazing variety of food.
Oh yeah.
Like in some countries, they just want something to eat. They don't care if it's potatoes, they don't care if it's a grain off a government truck. A big bag of grain will sustain their family for 3 weeks. Even
Yeah.
if that's all they're eating, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Here we have the luxury of not only having so much food, we have the luxury of looking at food that's been genetically modified to be healthier and be like, "No, I'm not going to eat that. I'm only going to eat this non-genetically modified food," which I get it. Like, there's people out there that don't understand the science. They don't understand
Right.
the safety behind food that's sold. And the FDA gets a bad rap for some of the things they do that people don't understand. But I'm sure glad we have an FDA in this country because, like.
Yeah, yes. Yes and no. As a, I'm glad that there is some level
right,
of
some level of
regulation.
oversight.
I think though it contributes to other problems
Right.
that we're seeing in our society. Like one of the biggest or hottest topics out there is why are drugs so expensive in the United States?
Right.
And to be honest with you, it's to get it through clinical trials.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you know what the average cost is to get a drug to market here in the United States?
I know it has to go through. I know a little bit more than most people. I don't know an average number, but I know it has to go through 3 different phases of research.
Yep.
Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I know.
And then there's a preclinical too.
Right, and I know they're at least 5 to 15 years a piece.
No.
No.
No. It depends if you get an orphan disease designation. That's for a very high risk, small amount of people that really need it. You can get to all 3 stages within a couple of years.
Okay.
That's happened before.
But okay, so we'll say 1 to 5 years a piece, roughly.
Sure.
Okay, so there's those 3 stages. So we'll say, so 3 to 15 years.
Sure. That's
Okay,
fair.
so
That's
that there's that. I know there's the cost in running a facility in a lab. I know there's overhead as far as equipment, precursor, everything you need that makes a lab a lab.
Right.
Plus, you have the scientists that work in the lab. They don't work for free. They have student loans.
What do you mean they don't? I thought this is all charity.
Yeah, exactly, right? AIDS is a problem. Everybody that works on the drug that saves AIDS' life should be doing it for free, right? That's the way it should be. No, this is reality. These people have families. They have student loans. They want to take jiu-jitsu in the night. They want to go to movies. They want to have
your
a
electric
life.
bill, all those
So
things.
yeah, they need to be paid. So how, not just the scientists, but secretaries, assistants, orderly. Just the janitors. How much? It depends on the size of your lab. If you've got 100 people working at a lab, that's a lot of money paying out. And that's one product. That lab has a variety of things they're working on. So the variety, the most are going to fail. Like
Yes.
most of the stuff that people don't realize is like, hey, yeah, they spent $1 billion on this product to get it to market, but they also had 10 other products that they spent $250 million on that never made it. So yeah, in order for this company to exist, to be able to create this product, to get it to market, yeah, they've got to make that nut.
Yep.
Like they've got to be able to keep the doors open so they can continue to do this research, because even though these other drugs never make it to market, now we know exactly what doesn't work. We know exactly what doesn't work, and we know why it doesn't work, and that's important to know so we don't make that mistake again in the future. And that's what people don't get about science, is every bit of data is valuable, even though it may prove that something doesn't work. That in itself has so much value, because we don't have to waste all these resources that we're talking about on that again.
Not necessarily. Correct.
Right.
And there's a reason why it's called research.
Right. And peer review.
Yeah.
And you do it again. But because everything does need to be looked at,
Yep.
multiple. But as far as like breaking the ground, there's a lot. It costs a lot less to relook at something than it does to actually get there in the first place.
Correct.
So
I agree with you 100%.
So yeah, I don't know exact numbers on what it takes to get drugs to market, but I know that there's a lot that it takes to get there.
It does. So just pull it straight out of your ass. Throw a number out there.
So
Average.
on something like, say like, we'll say Lovenox, because we talked about it. Let's say I'm going to go out pull it out of my ass, $300 million to get Lovenox to market.
Okay. That's a good number. Good number. The way it stands today, on average, it takes $1 billion to get a drug to market. Average timeline, 10 years.
Wow.
So now just sit there and think about it. If you took that $1 billion and put it into something like tax-free government bonds for that 10-year period, you've actually cost that company $2 billion. If they just could have taken that money and just invested it.
Wow, yeah.
And so you got these huge gambles.
Yeah.
And the number of drug failures. So my company, iMetabolic Biopharma, we are a precision medicine drug discovery and development company looking for specific insight in treating obesity-related disease. Now, all that's straightforward except for the precision medicine part. Statistically, to get a drug from preclinical to market, you have, using conventional methodologies, you have an 8.9% chance of success. So that means you've got
the deck is stacked against you pretty heavy.
1 in 12.
Yeah.
1 in 12 will make it.
Wow.
Okay, and so you just think about, like, I would much rather fail in preclinical or phase 1s than getting all the way to phase 3. And there are you read about it all the time. There are so many drugs that hit late in your phase 2Bs or your phase 3.
Or they get to market and they get recalled. So, you know.
No. That
has happened. Yeah.
No, that has happened.
Yeah.
And there are certain laws that have changed because of stuff like that. A lot of times there was just withholding of appropriate information to get it that far.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes.
Which real quick side note, that comes, and things like that, corporations behaving badly can cause mistrust of science and scientists, which is one of my huge pet peeves.
Oh, sure.
You know, like, but going on, you know, it's things like that, you know, people up high, you know, who put that gag order on scientists who do the groundbreaking research, and something like that's scary, man.
Well,
you know?
but honestly, I can't always blame the executives. I like to consider myself a fairly young guy. It's like what hair that I do have, it's still mostly color versus gray.
Yeah.
But as a scientist, I am extremely jaded. I've heard it so many times. Oh, you're a scientist. You're doing all of this stuff as a part of your life to go and help mankind. It's so noble, blah, 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 blah. And I just kind of like look at them and it's just, you are so far from the reality of the business of science.
Yeah.
It's if I told you the truth, you would probably throw up in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right now.
What's profitable? Can we make money off it? Yeah.
Well, no. That's purely business decisions.
Right.
And again, with like antitrust laws, there's stuff. There are events that take place that aren't even reported upwards because these people want to keep their jobs and they're in charge of a program. They're not the CEO of the company.
Okay.
Half the time this stuff doesn't even reach anywhere close to the CEO's level. There are events that take place that are downplayed. There are things, to be honest with you, that actually get missed. Most people think that when you have these eureka moments, good or bad, there's thunder and lightning and flashes of light,
yes.
and it's like, oh,
music in the background. Yes,
we've got it right here. No, I'm sorry. With most eureka moments, if you sneezed or farted at the wrong time, it went right by you.
Wow.
Okay, so you need to be very, very careful with that, and that's where all of this data logging comes into play, because you can come back, scour, give everything a second or third point of view. That is so important.
Right.
So many of us scientists, we sit there and we look at data exactly the same freaking way over, and I get why. You look at so much of it, you just okay, fine. But guess what? You have 5 people looking at a problem the exact same way. You're all going to wind up most likely going to that answer. Then you get somebody coming out of left field who just kind of steps around the corner and looks at it, and it's like, hey guys, just ever think of looking at it from over here?
Yeah.
Oh wow, we've got a huge problem here.
And that's why the peer review process is such a huge part of the scientific method.
Yeah, and it also gives the fucking third reviewer
Yeah.
a chance to be a seagull and shit all over your work. Pardon my mouth,
But that's the beauty of science, ultimately, is because if it withstands the shitstorm, then it's truth.
I disagree.
Really?
I absolutely disagree with you. That's the way it's supposed to work in theory, but you're dealing with human beings.
Okay.
And human being bias and this innate need, especially with the egos that are built into scientists, that
Right.
I have to be freaking right. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Apply the methodology. And so whenever I have to, I don't do it very often just because it's such a time suck. When I do a peer review of something, for everything negative, I make it a point. Everything negative I say, I come back with an offering of how do you improve upon this point. I'm not going to go
Right.
and throw shit at you just for the sake of throwing shit at you, trying to go and show you that my dick's bigger than yours. Again,
Right.
pardon
Okay.
my language.
No, I get you. I get you on that. I
Yeah.
get you on that.
And that happens all the time. I've gotten into email shouting matches with reviewers, like basically coming back and stating that if you looked at this page at this line and you could actually read, you would
Yeah.
see that I've explained this point, but you're holding this whole process up because you just don't want to see my work to get through. I've seen the stealing of ideas. I've seen
Yeah.
great ideas, great science moving forward, but since it so the way peer review works is if you're an expert in a specific field and I write into that field, if you are an editor or a reviewer on this, it gets thrown into your court. Now,
Right.
my work might contradict yours.
Right.
There's no way in hell that you're going to let your livelihood,
Your
be
life's work.
be
Right.
shit on by somebody that you've, especially up and coming scientists, that they can just bury you right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people out there that will go and freaking do that. You
Right.
see the recycling of the same idea for 20 freaking years. And this is my gripe with academia. We need universities. We need university professors. We need this thought process and the ability to teach these next generation of scientists to be independent thinkers and do it. But here's the problem with that scenario is that it doesn't ever have to lead to the formation of a solution. I would be better off if I was in academia, never developing a product, never making a solution. I'm actually better off if I can make the problem more complex and more daunting because I can keep going back to the trough and asking for more and more money. I
Okay,
need
yeah.
more people for this.
Right.
The problem is way, way larger than
Right.
anybody ever thought. Well, no, you're just
Diving deeper and deeper and deeper.
This is where,
Yeah.
like Elon Musk. I mentioned Craig Venter. You probably
Yeah.
don't even know who that is.
No.
He's the guy that did the Human Genome Project. He
Okay.
was in academia.
Wow. Okay.
And there was this huge debate. We're going to sequence the human genome, and it's going to take so many decades and all of this money. And Craig, we have to develop all these technologies to do it. And Craig Venter was like, well, wait a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to form a company. I'm going to raise money. I'm going to buy a shit ton of sequencers which are commercially available today. I'm going to fill a room and it's going to just start chugging up DNA sequences. And he sequenced the human genome in a fraction of the time at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to say, we have all kinds of genetic biomes today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically where we start to get information now, right? When it comes to like cellular studying things on the cell level, right?
So, yeah, I don't want to get into this too much, but genomics was the starting point for the omics revolution. You've got genomics, which is the gene level. You got proteomics, which is at the protein level. You got metabolomics, which is with metabolites,
Right.
small molecules that
Right.
change throughout your body. There's even biomics now, which is looking at like your gut flora. and stuff like that. So, that's what started all of it.
Okay.
And then you've got systems biology, which tries to tie everything all together and make sense of these complex networks, because none of these biological systems operate in a vacuum. They're all dynamic, interacting with everything,
Right.
just like you
Right.
and me. You wouldn't be able to do your podcast without people sitting in this
So,
other chair.
yeah, for sure.
And,
for sure.
and organisms, let's not even get into an organism level. Let's take it all the way down to a tissue. A tissue can't survive without a whole concert of cells working together.
Right. Right. Okay.
And so there's all of these dynamics, interaction, how that they talk to each other. Last time I checked, cells don't speak English. They use
Exactly.
chemical signaling.
Right,
They take
right.
these chemicals in, they change it, and then
Okay.
it starts something.
Right. Right.
and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And so it's really easy to go, and when you place it that way, to go and just like on paper just start drawing all these lines. I'm sure you've seen it before.
Uh-huh.
Where you've got these biological pathways and there's all these arrows and pictures of cells, and it's like all over the place. It's so easy to do something like that. But okay, in Craig Ventnor's case, what do we have available today that can address the problem? Boom, we've got all of these things. Okay,
Yeah.
let's start working the problem.
Right.
Technologies will evolve as there's an opportunity that arises. Elon Musk is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. I love his quote about space travel. He said the cost of going into space is horrendous, and we need to make it mundane.
Yeah, well, you need to
like-
make it consumable by the masses.
Right.
Okay, and that's what he's trying to do. It's like, let's forget about putting people onto the moon. How do we go and make something to leapfrog technology forward that ultimately will enable that? Heck, it'll enable us to be able to go to Mars.
Right.
But you need to be able to go and get the appropriate monetary resources to develop it. And again, there's a place for the CDC. There's a place for the NIH and all of the funding
Right.
mechanisms, the NSF. There's a place for all of that, but that cannot be our go-to for having innovation. You name
Right.
me one product today that is manufactured at a university.
Kevin Folta could. Well, he
A product.
Well,
I'm not talking about an idea. I'm talking
right,
about an actual
right.
product.
A
that
product.
that you-
Gatorade. No.
It was founded at a university, but it's not made there.
You're right. You're right. Other than ASU T-shirts. No, they're not made at a university
made in
either.
China.
They're sold. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't. think of
Universities
anything.
don't make products. They
Yeah.
make ideas.
Right.
They make
Right.
people. They form people
Right.
to the next level. But they're not there to make products. That's where companies come into play. So
Right.
now we've kind of come full circle.
Full circle
re-
back into
regarding
capitalism.
capitalism.
Right.
Yeah. You have to have this
Yeah.
this cog in the wheel in order to make this stuff
It's like
work.
when people talk about Monsanto and they talk about genetically modified seeds and they talk about harping on Monsanto, and it's like, listen, guys, nobody out there is making seeds that can withstand drought and disease,
Right.
so they can give them away for free.
Heck no.
Come on.
Yeah.
They're a seed company that looks at the market and says, what do you guys need? Oh, you want seeds that are drought and disease free. Okay. We'll make those.
Right.
It is what it is, and that company gets thrown around a lot.
It does.
It gets thrown under the bus a lot. It goes back to a lawsuit, and I think it was somewhere in South America, and I don't have all the facts, so my credibility doesn't sound super great on this topic, but this is what happened. They were selling a community corn, and the community was planting their crops, selling the corn, making money, and Monsanto was saying, okay, we've spent, well, they didn't give a number, but their mentality was this: we've spent this much money developing this crop so that we could sell it to you. The only thing we ask is, if you're going to plant corn, our corn, buy it from us.
Yeah.
Don't keep our our corn for seed and plant it every year based on what we sold you 5 years ago, because we sold that this is a once a year. We're selling
Sure.
you it every year. Well, this community didn't do that. And everybody in the community kept crop seed for multiple years.
Right.
And after costing Monsanto a shitload of money, finally they were like, you know what? Fuck you guys. We're suing you.
As well as they should.
Right. Like just like anybody listening to this podcast, if someone ripped you off in business to go about it the right way, to be a good person, to not be a monster, to not be gangster, you sue someone in court.
Right.
You know? That's how civilized people handle it.
Right.
They won the lawsuit. Some of these farmers were ruined. In that region, it's common to commit suicide when you're financially ruined.
Sure.
So yeah, there was some of that going on. Monsanto took the money that they won from the lawsuit and built a school in the community. Evil, horrible, monster Monsanto.
Sure.
It was to send a message. Don't rip us off. You needed this. We built this for you.
Right.
It cost a lot of money to do it. You keep up your end of the bargain. You know, we don't need the money. We'll build you a school, and it's going to benefit your community. But also, you have going back to that honor culture thing of people committing suicide when they're ruined. If you're a poor farmer and it costs you $1,000 every year to plant your field, and you have a 50-50 shot of natural disasters and diseases and insects taking that field out. And then you have a product that comes along that costs you 1,500% or $1,500 to plant that field, but your disaster ratio goes down to 30% or 20%. It's worth the gamble.
Right.
Those are good numbers.
Sure.
So you're going to do it. Now, if that 20% hits, that sucks, because now instead of being out $1,000, you're out $1,500.
Right.
Suicides have come from that. And so, yeah, that makes Monsanto look bad. But that's a corporation selling a product to a culture that has a problem.
Right.
It's not the corporation's problem. A lot of people don't want to hear that. You know, they just want to hear, no, look at what Monsanto does. They sue people. They cause suicides. It's like, and then there's just common misconceptions of if you buy seed from Monsanto, then you can't buy it from anywhere else. And that's not true.
Right.
It's just a plain lie. So, I mean, yeah, everyone's out there trying to make that nut, but there's not a person out there working for free.
No.
You know, so, I mean, don't complain about how the world works, because it's not perfect, but it's working.
Right.
And it's getting better as time goes on. We just need more time. You know, like, we've got scientists that are working on improving the food that grows in areas to make it more nutritional for people.
Right.
We've got scientists trying to educate people and, you know, come to the root of the problem.
Sure.
You know, like, now we know fat's not the problem. Now we know it's sugar and just carbs in general.
Right.
When we didn't know that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you know, it took scientists to figure that out.
Right.
So, I mean, it's easy for people with relatively comfortable lives to say, let's be patient and let the process work itself out. As time goes on, things will get better. If you're not in a comfortable situation, that sounds very cold and very calculated.
Right.
But the reality is, hey, man, we've got a lot of smart people working on the biggest problems in the world, and it just takes time, you know.
It takes time. I always like to put things into perspective to make things personal, because unless you hit home with a lot of people, they don't actually get the point. Just imagine if you worked for this company and their innovation was being ripped off by somebody else. And so now this company, in order to survive, has to lay off. And now you're losing your job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to affect your family. Wouldn't you be upset at the people who are ripping you off? So, as a part of the world that I'm in, you know, a lot of times you use transgenic animals. And these transgenic animals are owned by these corporate laboratories, because it's their property. They engineered these animals with these things. Sometimes you can just buy a license to start your own breeding program for these animals. Like, fine, let's go and buy 24 of these animals, which aren't necessarily cheap. We're going
Right.
to start our own little breeding program,
It,
and
it,
then
it could be rats, but it could be primates.
non-human primates.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you know, like the monkey farm up in northern Mesa, in the desert. Have you ever heard about that place?
A little bit.
Yeah, Google it. It's spooky.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
No, it's
But-
there are some vendors that just simply will not allow you to do a breeding program with their animals. If
Yeah.
you need a new animal, you need to come back to us, because we have to pay for the fact that we develop these.
Yeah.
And you got to think about how many failures that they had in the process. Now they've
Right.
got this stable line, and again, we're talking about it, and so treat the animals humanely and stuff, but
Right.
it's still a product.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go and you have to pay it. And as an innovator, as a drug sponsor, I'm not going to risk the future of my company, shareholders' money, my credibility, to go and sidestep a license in which theoretically they could take everything that you've just done through the normal legal process because I did something wrong.
Right.
If you put it in a scenario like that, most people would get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when it starts, you start talking about other things like food and the right to get it. But again,
Yeah.
it's still a product. Maybe there could have been alternative ways to go and do it. But then again, how do we know that those options weren't offered and it just fell on deaf ears?
Right.
So
Right.
there's a lot of things, dynamics that go into those,
Yeah,
those
it's
type
complicated.
of situations. But
Yeah.
again, as a scientist, from a purely GMO perspective,
Yeah.
and you and I Facebook about this. You and I are
Yeah,
both
for
GMO.
sure. Yeah, about seedless grapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you took me to school on that. I was happy to learn about that. You know?
The simple fact that
Yeah.
we can form memories.
Right.
That is a retrovirus action
Mm-hmm.
that somewhere back in time, a virus infected an animal that left this viral imprint in its genome, which allowed it to start forming memories.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, whatever genetic line that bivalve organisms evolved from
Yeah.
weren't infected with that virus. They,
Yeah.
It's just amazing when you start to talk about not only paleoanthropology but just the evolution of different mechanisms of why we can see the color red. Go back far enough, what caused us to be able to see that color,
Right.
or see patterns or see things that move,
Right.
When you talk about adaptation and evolution
Yeah.
and things that can't adapt die,
Yeah.
it just gets really fascinating along down that line,
Yeah.
or, that line of thinking. Hank Shaw, I've had on the podcast before. He's a wild game chef, and he writes amazing cookbooks, all about wild game. And he's big into paleoanthropology.
Sure.
And at some point, I'm going to have him on just to talk about that.
Right.
So that'll be a fun one. One topic I want to talk about real quick before we wrap it up is,
Sure.
There's been a couple times on this podcast where you've said, from the perspective as a scientist, someone who's in the field, and this last time you said it just kind of popped up because we were talking about GMOs and things like
Right.
that. But let's talk, and we've been talking about drug companies. But with drug companies, let's talk about the cancer research real quick.
Okay.
And there's this misconception with conspiracy theories and theorists and things like that, is that there's some hidden cure. First of all, there's a magical cure out there that cures every single type of cancer, and that it's been developed and that it's been sitting on by the major pharmaceutical companies,
Right.
and most people think it probably includes high amounts of THC and marijuana in it, and things like that. As a perspective, as a scientist, would you say that people in your life, people that you love, people that you care about, would you say that their probably just as likely to get cancer as anyone else on the planet.
So,
I mean,
just for transparency,
yeah,
my
like,
mom died of cancer.
Yeah.
My first wife died
my
of cancer.
my grandpa died of cancer in
Yeah.
2017. I had 6 people in my life die from cancer.
Yeah, and again, not from the emotional standpoint. I'm
Right.
not trying to diminish any of that stuff.
It sucks.
From the moment you're born until the day you die, your body develops, knock on wood, and fights off the establishment of cancer. When you
Mhm.
go and you look at the number of cells that are within a living, breathing, functional human being, and the amount of DNA transcription and translation that's taking place, and how much code it's going through like every single second of your life, and the amount of error that can take place,
Mhm.
and the amount of correction that has to take place.
Mm.
Nothing in science. There's only 2 things in life, in my opinion, that are 100% guaranteed: death and taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my view
Yeah.
on this. Even if something works at 99.99999% effective,
There's
there's
still
always
that
going to be error.
variable.
There's
Yeah.
always going to be error. And it's whether or not your body catches that error
Mm-hmm.
before it becomes too late. The problem, so cancer is just a general freaking term.
Free radical cell division, essentially.
There's
Well, I mean, yeah.
it's the aberrant proliferation of cells that leads to the removal of nutrients from healthy living cells. That's what it comes down to. And there's so many different types. People talk about breast cancer. It's a very real thing.
As many organs in the body.
But
there
do you know how many different types of breast cancer there are by histology? There's 14.
Jeez.
Okay, so there's potentially 14 different pathologies that you're looking at there.
Right.
Okay, so somebody's got breast cancer. I feel sorry for it. Which one are you talking about?
Right.
Okay, each one might have, everybody knows about HER2/neu and stuff like
Mhm.
that, but there's so many other ones in which it was a different root genetic cause
Mhm.
or something, and they don't even know why things happen. Like my wife died of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. It's 2018. They have no idea how people get that.
Wow.
Not a freaking clue.
Wow.
You just developed this form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and
Wow.
we'll do the best that we can. Knock on wood, we'll take care of it. If not,
Wow.
but this is something that just in the nature of cancer, which is actually fascinating by itself, is the ability for it to trick the body that it isn't actually there.
That's what's crazy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes, and just they see this in bacterial colonies, and they actually suspect that it actually happens in cancer. It's when you have the formation of the tumor. It's not 100% from the actual morphology and proliferation of the cancer cell.
Mhm.
It's able to communicate to its neighboring cells
Okay.
and change them. Come to the dark side.
Right.
And that in itself, that purely scientifically,
Yeah.
that ability to communicate and change
It's crazy.
it's
It's
fascinating.
crazy. Yeah. No, but I mean, yeah, and that's a great point too. Is like let's take skin cancer for example.
Sure.
Let's look at skin as one big organ, but how many different types of skin are there on your body?
Oh.
Like your skin on your feet. The skin on your bottom of your feet is different from the skin on your top of your feet.
Sure.
Different skin on your elbow, different skin on your leg, on your, it's all different. So, I mean, everything is going to react and work a little differently as part of the larger whole.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, how many different types of skin cancer are there? Sheesh, I mean, how does one type of skin cancer react on this type of skin versus this type of skin?
Right.
I mean, it's just, it's such, and there's so much we just don't know about it still. And what science is data collection.
Yep.
And so we're still, the jury's still out on a lot of this. We're still just gathering research. Like we have cancer hospitals.
Yep.
Right now. We used to have things like smallpox hospitals.
Yeah, TB.
Yeah.
Asylums.
Right. Things that, that immunizations have made vaccines have made completely obsolete.
Sure.
Like if people would laugh if you tried to talk about finding a smallpox hospital now. It'd be like, there might be a memorial for one.
Sure.
But like, that's the power of vaccinations. That's the power of data collection and good science. But yeah, it's just, we could go down this rabbit hole for another 3 hours, and let's just be honest with people. We got jiu-jitsu to get to.
Absolutely.
So
we got to get our roll on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Planet Earth, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your time, Urban.
No, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do this again and talk more about specific topics and have you take me to school on some things. But yeah, thanks for the knowledge. Thanks for dropping the wisdom. And Planet Earth, above all, be excellent to each other.